we're gonna pop in some of the individual game film, which is a more normal pace, but also it gives you a lot more clips of that. And so we're gonna look at that a little bit and dive into that. And so we're gonna start with the playoff game, one of his playoff games here, and show you that film because it is really impressive. This is against Grafton. So we're going to pull that up, and Ryan will go ahead and talk everybody through that, and let you guys don't need to see us. So we'll pop that in there and work through this film. So let's get started, Ryan. Obviously, you'll see him start, and he's a quarterback.
Yep. And I think the first thing that pops out, Brian, is that the kid is a very quick twitch athlete. So the RPO game, and I know his coach talked about this a ton, right? So he can definitely throw the football well enough. But I think for me, like you see it's got a little bit of a high step in look to him as a runner, man, but he's explosive and he gets to his top speed incredibly quickly, which I think is important, right? And he's got that inside-outside look to him. I mean, they run a bunch of zone read, they run power read. He is doing a little bit of everything as a runner. But then you look at him and you're like, I mean, my man can throw the football a little bit.
His balance here, though, in these clips, yes, Ryan, is just really exceptional. I mean, this clip right here, I don't care about the leap, right? Like, that's such an overrated thing to me. But watch how quickly he lands and gets immediately into running form.
Yes.
Right.
He's like a hurdler, you know,
right.
Like when hurdlers get that lead leg down and they just explode forward. Right. Like that's what he looks like to me. And I mean, it's a great point, Brian, because he is just an explosive kid that gets to his top speed again very quickly. And I think that shows up on the offensive and defensive side of the ball, man. Like he comes to balance and he explodes quickly when he makes a decision.
Yeah. I think that you see elusiveness. You see very light on his feet. Again, that's nice arm talent. That's a kid that if I'm at Norfolk State, if I'm in a school like that, I'd love to have a kid like that at quarterback, a run throw kid like that at quarterback, Ryan. You know, and so you see those tools, you see those traits, and you start to say, boy, this kid can do a little something. We're gonna watch some in-season conference film here next. This is against Booker T High School, which is actually where my dad went to high school for a couple of years. He, I think, started at Booker T, and then they started busing him to Lake Taylor. Maybe it's the other way around. He was at Lake Taylor and started busing him to Booker T. I don't know. The whole thing is confusing. That's when they were busing people from one. I don't even get into that nonsense. But anyway, but my dad went to Booker T. I actually recruited Booker T when I was coaching. Some fun stories about that, but this is actually right near where my parents used to live. So this is actually at Churchland, however, and you'll see some more action, and you'll see him just the athleticism, the lower body strength is impressive for his size too, and you see that in some of these clips.
Yeah, he's the type of kid that breaks a ton of arm tackles, and here you see him. First couple clips here now playing safety, and he plays a lot of too high safety, but he comes down and
look at that length though, Ryan. Yes. That's the thing, though. Like the length right there, you can see how quickly he closes on the football.
And even though he gets in late on this little tackle here, man, like you can see once he makes a decision and triggers when he gets downhill, he's explosive. Yes. Again, gets to his top speed very quickly. And the one thing I love a lot about him on defense too, Brian, is when he sees something, he trusts it 100 miles per hour, man. He's going. Yeah, he's not second guessing.
But you know what, though, Ryan? Here's the thing, though. A lot of kids that play like that play out of control. And if you look at this particular clip, he flies downhill, but then he sees the kid, and then how quickly he comes to balance, goes low and makes the form tackle. Like, this isn't just, an athletic kid that flew up and killed somebody. This is a kid that understands, hey, I'm out on an island here. He does two things I love. I just talked about the one. He comes to balance, makes a form tackle. But look at the angle. The reason he doesn't blow this kid up is because he knows his primary responsibility is outside contain. I cannot let this guy get outside me. So he flies outside, funnels the kid back inside, but then he's in position to make the tackle. That is such sound football there, right? And we can get caught up in the athleticism and the range and all that, but this is an incredibly sound football play.
It is.
And that's the thing I like.
But I'll also get excited about the athleticism too, Brian, because you don't often see a kid trigger from safety and making a tackle for loss on a speed option. Like it's very impressive stuff.
But athleticism is only going to get you so far at the next level, right? Sure. There were some athletes at Notre Dame that were looking pretty silly in space against USC, right? Like you've got to be a sound football player as well. And the athletic traits are fun, and we're going to continue to break them down. I love them. But the thing I just like about this kid so much, Ryan, is he's just such a he's a football player, man. He's not just an athlete. He's a football player. Like, I love this toughness right here.
Yes. He's a physical kid, man.
Never
on both
stops his
sides of the
feet.
ball.
And there's some cats that can run at Booker T. Let me tell you all right now. There's some cats that can run at Booker T. But they just can't keep up with him.
The best is that this offense, yes, they run some power read, they run some zone read, they let him throw the football around a little bit, but then you just see this offensive time that's like, okay, this is Brandyn Hillman keep right, Brandyn Hillman keep left.
Right.
You're the best athlete on the field.
Right. And just he plays it, and he plays like this stuff. Like some people, my dad would hate this, right? My dad would probably hate this. I love it. I love the swagger that he plays with. I do. I mean, I kind of played this way, and I like kids that play that way. You know, I just like kids that play with attitude, play with swagger. There's a smack right there.
Well, Brandon, I mean, because I think for Brandon, Brian, it's something where, again, man, he did not blow up until late in the process.
Right.
I think there is a little bit of a chip on his shoulder with how he plays. I really do.
Because he thinks he's way better than that. And he is.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's not wrong. You know what I mean?
Wrong.
But he's not someone who's like, you know, that stuff is just fuel to him. It's not something he doesn't second guess himself. This is a really nice clip right here. I remember this. Really light on his feet. Look at that awareness, right, Ryan? This is what I'm talking. This is the stuff I'm talking about. This is awareness. This is both of these kids. Great coverage awareness by these two kids from Churchland. Look at the communication. But Brandon doesn't see that other kid. He just knows it. And then, oh, wow, a jump in front of it. Not only to recognize, but a jump in front of it. Hear the communication. Like I said, you just see that he's a really sound football player. This is another example. He's trying to cover a slant. Look at this. Look how quickly he reads the slide and just blows it up.
Yep. And it's not easy to switch on the goal line either, which you saw in the clip before that, right? Like it's not. You have to be a smart pair of players to be able to do that. And then you see the read and recognition that he had on the last play to stop the guy short of the goal line. Like again, man, I think that there is some very natural instincts to him as a player. And I think that a lot of that is due to his experience playing on the offensive side of the ball defensively, right? Like I think that helps him a lot.
This is against IC Norcom, actually a high school that I interviewed for the head coaching job back in the day. So this is actually against IC Norcom. The game is at Churchland. Churchland has a field that is very you're not confused about whose field it is. Yep. There's no doubt. But Norcom's another school that produces a lot. That's why I wanted that job. They produce a lot of athletes. They're just not always coached great. At least they weren't back in the day, but always a lot of athletes at Norcom. I love the awareness there, though. Look at him keep his eyes downfield. Again, he's just a football player. Not the greatest throw in the world, but you see the live arm, though. Look, that's
I was going to say, his arm is definitely live, man. That's not an easy throw, like climbing up like that on the run. Like that's not easy, but he does have a nice arm. He really does.
Yeah. Yep.
Because, like, honestly, Brian, if you would have told me that Notre Dame took this kid as kind of a flyer quarterback, I would have been okay with that, man. He's a talented kid, I think that his traits will be best suited at other spots, but I mean, it's not like this kid has a lack of ability as a passer. It's just, there's obviously, I think, other positions that suit his skill set better, in my opinion.
Yeah, I just think you kind of limit just how impactful he can be a quarterback.
Exactly.
I think is the thing for me. Here's some defensive stuff. You see him on the back end. Look at this isn't a lot. He changes direction three times in a very quick amount of time. He's back, then he goes laterally, very wasted motion. Then he's downhill, and just really, really smooth athlete. Really smooth athlete.
Yeah, and I think some of these clips, Brian, is why I started to turn my opinion a little bit as far as, because I thought he was a rover first time I saw him. And then I'm like, oh, maybe he can play deep safety because he could.
Yeah. But I think right now I would say that the path for him to play is better at rover. Because I think this is where I think rover's ideal, because this is where you see somewhat of the limitation, right? Like if there is a limitation, he's just not quite the burner that Peyton Bowen is, that that some of the other guys at the position are. Sure. But then you see this is where he's at his best, coming downhill. Oof. And that's why I say, like, he could be an alley safety. I don't know if I want him playing in like deep thirds, but as an alley safety, as a rover, boy, man, he's got like for example, Peyton Bowen's just pure range and athleticism. This kid is more of a true strong safety, downhill.
Bring him down. Yep.
Could you see a scenario where him and Peyton Bowen complement each other? Sure.
100%.
But that's also where I see a Don Schuler,
Yep.
But if the starting trio is somewhere Hillman, Peyton Bowen, and a Don Schuler, well, Peyton Bowen's the pure safety, and the other two, you figure out who's the rover and who's the sort of the strong safety kid.
Yeah.
And that's where you start getting fired up about it.
I love that pop on the last one too, Brian, because that was a big kid that he went head to head with, man. That was not a small boy, and you see the pop in the pads. You just see it.
When that kid stops, that kid thinks he's going to run him over, and he does not get any more vertical movement at all.
Absolutely.
He's at his best when he's running downhill.
Yes. Yeah. I think you nailed it correctly, though. Like, if he's a safety, this is that true strong safety. I am going to get down in short zone and I am going to knock you out. Like, that's this type of kid. He's a really explosive hitter, and he's really good in short spaces, which is why I like him at Rover again.
Yeah, we're going to watch a couple more games here real quick of him, and then we'll move on to sort of just kind of what's left in the class. Nice deep ball here. I remember this clip from earlier.
Yep. He has a really nice deep ball, actually, which is interesting. So
that's why I say, like, if you got in a pinch and you had to play him at quarterback, you're not just running a wildcat hoping to get out of the game. I love that. You're talking about you've got a couple things in your tool belt that you can go to with this kid. Look at this. Just the Brian, athleticism.
Yeah, man. One thing I'm happy about is that I never made anyone's highlight tape of me getting hurdled, which I'm very happy about. So.
Seriously. If you'd have played in the 7.57, no, you might have. I'm not going to lie to you. You might have. Because I learned that too. Like I've told the story, and I'd say it jokingly, but it's true. The first pass I ever threw in high school got caught by Dre Bly. He wasn't on my team. Yeah, but he was on the other team. But like I had my receiver Trey Simpkins was open on a corner route by 3 or 4 yards. Well, growing up in Northwest Ohio, that's a touchdown, much less, So I throw that ball out towards the sideline on a rope. And Dre Bly was like, I wasn't even running yet, bro. And he just turns on the Jets, and I'm like, dang.
Nothing to be ashamed of with a 10-year NFL vet. So.
I know, right? It's like, okay, that's a little different in Northwest Ohio football right there, fellas.
Dre Bly was a Pro Bowler, so it's okay.
Yeah, but it's just like, I don't know what I could have done differently on that one. So that was a little different level of football, there's no doubt.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but this kid's a really special athlete. And they did play against Western Branch, which is where Dre Bly is from. Fortunately for me, it was a scrimmage. It wasn't a real game. So there's no actual statistical evidence of that ever happening.
Nice. So
I could always deny it if I wanted to. I can't now that I've told the story, but yeah. Look at just how you talk about Ryan, how he gets to full speed quickly. This is another example of that. I mean, he gets downhill in a hurry.
He's a runaway freight train, man. Runaway freight train. Which again, Brian, like some people are probably going to say like, oh, running back then, right? And I'm just like, I would love to see this kid as a receiver. You hit a little RPO action. You just hit a little slants with him, right? And just watch him just go head to head against a safety going downhill, man. Like this is the type of kid that's going to break a couple tackles. He's like your modern big slot type, right? Yeah. Guys that can break a ton of tackles. Like that's who he is offensively, in my opinion, if he sticks on the offensive side of the football. And like you said, also wouldn't count it out that maybe he's a kick returner at some point, man. Like that momentum getting downhill. Like
I'm gonna add one more, Ryan, because this is their second playoff game, or the first playoff game. I wanted to show this one as well because I like showing it against the best competition. So this is against Heritage, which is across the river in the Hampton, Newport News area.
Yeah.
So this is the first round of the playoffs. A game they won 49-20, and this kid went absolutely off in this football game. This is good football. This is against kids. There's a lot of kids on the other side of the field this is him playing corner. Look how easy his hips are. I remember seeing this clip from earlier. Very easy, fluid hips, Ryan.
Yeah. So we've now seen him in the box, Brian. We've seen him in deep safety. We've seen him at corner. We've seen him run the football, pass the football. I mean, we even saw him holding and taking a bad snap for a touchdown. So, I mean, this kid does. And you said he's an all-area punter as well, right?
Right.
So
second team all-district punter. Yeah. Second team all-district punter. It's pretty nutty. But, yeah, I mean, you look at why is he playing corner there? He hardly plays any corner. It's because there was a matchup that they said we've got to put our best dude against their best dude.
Yes.
And that's basically what it boils down to, So that's what you do when you have a kid like that.
Yeah. I can't relate from my high school coaching career. I never quite had a kid like this, but
Yeah.
that's what you do with him if you have him.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt. No doubt. All right. Let's get to a couple more here. There is
It's even more impressive too, Brian, that you say he does so much, and you said that he plays at a pretty good classification of Virginia. You know, as you get at better classifications, you don't expect a kid to have to do as much, right?
Right.
But you do. I think that's a separator too. Is like you even
the
talk about
numbers
like
at a lot
Bowen.
of these schools aren't there. Like the 757, they don't have huge rosters. You know, it's not. It's a little bit different, but yes.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, I mean, I was even thinking just like a Peyton Bowen, for instance, he's playing at 6A in the state of Texas, right? Like the highest classification. And he's playing safety. He's playing wide receiver when they need him. He's their punt returner. Like you have a lot of kids that are asked to do a lot of things because they are the unquestioned best athlete on their team.